Well, hello and welcome back to another week on the allotment. The sun is just rising on a Sunday morning. The last two evenings, Friday and Saturday evening, Cheryl has brought our evening meal up here and she's picked the fruit. She's an absolute warrior when it comes to picking fruit. I potter around the plot in the background pretending to do very important vital work while she picks the fruit. I just don't have the patience for it, which is a bit odd when I've got an allotment. But anyway, so our freezers are now filling up. We emptied them thinking we were moving, and now we're filling them again. But you know, that's what it's all about. Those 6 freezers see us through the winter, well, the autumn and winter, and you know, hundreds, if not £1,000 worth of food in those freezers. So it's really important that we don't waste harvests. So welcome along. Please consider subscribing if you haven't, and let's have a look around at what's going on the plot. Well, these purple sprouting broccoli and Savoy cabbages have established well. I give them a bit of water this week in this heat and they're doing well. Very happy with that. And here I've got to find homes for these dahlias. They're not looking well. I think it's just the fact that they're in too small a pot. So I'm going to use some of those empty potato pots, I think, and put a bit of compost in them, and hopefully they'll enjoy the room. Well, one set of plants that are enjoying this heat are the beans. The runner beans there, which are, you know, 5 feet up the poles now. But more importantly, the borlotti and the butter beans have really put on a good spurt of growth this week. I think they've enjoyed the heat, and some of them are now 2 or 3 feet up. So they're a little way behind, but they're holding their own and they're doing okay. The broad beans win the prize for the ugliest looking crop. However, we are getting a superb crop off them. So although they've been bashed, you know, I failed to tie them in properly. I tied them each to an individual cane and it hasn't worked. The wind has battered them. I need to get stronger stakes next year and make a better corral of each row. But having said that, they are cropping fantastically. We've got a couple of shelves of freezers full now. We've been having them with each meal. They're fantastic. We both love them. And it's a success story. Although, you know, it does look blimmin' awful. Oh, I'm okay getting down here. It's when it comes to getting back up. So yeah, these pots have been emptied of their potato crop. And I just thought, you know, that's meant to be 2/3 of a metre high. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere, so I don't think it can do any harm just to put it in a bigger pot. I don't need these pots now till next year. So we'll give it a go and see if it reacts. I don't know what kind of root system it's got, if it's up to much. No, not. It's okay. We'll see. Sometimes you just have to, you know, you don't know, do you? So try something different. But that would suggest to me that it's not because the roots weren't, you know, crammed in there trying to get out. It's not because it's in a small pot. So I might be wasting my time. Look similar, don't they? Because of course you can eat the tubers of dahlias. I never have. I like the flowers too much. Right. We'll give that a go. I've got a couple more to do. Once I've done them, I'll come back to you. Here we go. Oh. Well, actually, they really don't look very healthy at all, but we'll see. I've taken a positive step. Whether it's the right one or the wrong one remains to be seen. And of course, it takes dahlias 2 or 3 years to reach their full height and potential. They're never going to be 0.6 of a metre high in their first year. But anyway, that's done. But I don't think it's a coincidence that these dahlias that, well, a couple of weeks ago now, I put from small pots into this bed where the roots have got a free run. I don't think it's a coincidence that they look so much healthier. So watch this space. This is a odd phenomena. The blackcurrant bushes, which are cropping beautifully, have all flopped over. I'm wondering if that's lack of water. I haven't actually watered these. They're so well established, their roots are down. They've developed their fruit. The fruit is as big as always. So I think they're okay for water. I don't know. Does anybody know why would the mature blackcurrant bushes flop like that? The one behind, which is a cutting from one of these, that's standing straight as they should do. But these are all, maybe it's just the weight of fruit. Yeah, but I've never seen it before, and in previous years they've had as much fruit on. Anyway, it's just something I've noticed. And the sunflowers are starting to flower. They're a mix, I can't remember, sunburst mix or something like that, so they're all going to be different colours, but that is a particularly nice one. And I'm the only one in my family that likes sunflowers. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll try and take some home, but I've got a feeling they get rejected at the back door. And I know I've shown you before, but this is the stuff that irritates me. I look at other people's plots and their paths are all neat and well kept, and I look at mine and I really struggle. It's not like I don't weed them, I do, but within a week the couch grass and the annual and perennial weeds are back up, and it irritates the hell out of me. I hate it. I've come to terms with it because I know the important thing is the harvests, but I'm going to pick up my chisel, my weeding tool of choice, and a bucket, and I'm going to do this path now. But it's time consuming and it detracts from what should be cropping. But yeah, it's a bloody nuisance. Well, when I look in closely, I can see the heads of broccoli starting to form. This is the difficult time because it only takes one slug to get on that head and ruin the plant which you've been growing for months. But they're starting to develop. And that's what I'm talking about. A slug has got onto that cauliflower head and eaten off the soft tips of the florets. So that's, you know, I can't take that home. So it's a shame, but you know, it's the risk you run. That's why growing a cauliflower to full, you know, to harvest, it is such a lovely moment on any allotment. It's so difficult to get past the pests, but we shall see. This is a main crop variety of potato called Kingsman. Never grown it before, but I have to say it's very attractive flowers. Very neat. So of course that doesn't matter, that what matters is the potato, but I do like the look of them. So far so good. Well, the butternuts are breaking out of camp and starting their journey across the plastic sheeting, which is good news. Again, they do look good. They will love the heat, and I water them every time I come up here. So hopefully we'll get some butternuts this year. And down there, first sowing of beetroot boltardi, a second sowing, and I've got more in the greenhouse at home. I'm trying not to grow too much of it this year because again I'm the only one that eats beetroot. So there's no point in growing great swathes of it if nobody else wants to eat it. The Uchiki Kuri squash are doing well. Again, they're off across the plastic. In fact, one of them's across the plastic and it's looking for the path. But there are fruit. Small embryonic little fruit forming. Looking forward to watching this develop because I've never grown this one before. And the tomatoes are another crop that have enjoyed this week's heat. Endless amounts of side shooting and watering. It is a nuisance, but they're such a good crop to grow if we get a harvest. It's actually starting to spit. I think it's time for a brew. There are dark clouds gathering. These heat waves always end with a storm, don't they? Looks like I might get wet today. Just a quick update on the onion situation. I explained last week or the week before that we've got allium leaf miner on the plot. And at first you think, oh, it's a disaster, I'm going to lose it all. But the garlic has been unaffected, thankfully. The spring onions up in the raised bed up there near the shed, they haven't been bothered. But these have all got the classic, leaf miner damage with the little holes and the white lines where the fly goes into the leaf. So these have been affected by the leaf miner. However, I took home a whole bed. It must have been 60, 70 onions. Really good sized bulbs. And Cheryl has methodically worked through nearly all of them. She's got a few left to do, and I think she's doing them this morning. And no damage in the bulbs, and she's chopped it all up and frozen it. So, although at first it seemed like a disaster, and it does make life more difficult because now I have to grow all my onions and alliums under Enviromesh. And so, you know, it's more difficult, another expense, but, you know, that's growing fruits and vegetables. I could, you know, like all the farmers do, I could douse it all in herbicides, fungicides and pesticides, but I don't want to eat that. That's why I grow my own. So, as with all pests, like I say, at first it seems like a disaster, but then you do a bit of research, and some of my subscribers have been very kind, coming back with different points and facts about it. And I've watched other YouTubers, and you can mitigate. There's always a way around it. So we haven't lost any crop yet, and these will be coming out in the next week. I might give Cheryl a break. And for all of you that might say, well, why don't you help her in the kitchen, Martin? I'm not allowed in the kitchen. If I walk into the kitchen, I get a look. You might know the look. Yeah, I'm not allowed. My responsibility ends at the back of the allotment when I hand it over to Cheryl in the kitchen. So, so not all bad news on the allium front. Oh, I've got to get up again. Oh. Oh. And down here on what I could call the potato patch, because I've got 3 large beds of potatoes, this week I spent a bit of time on the rhubarb. We've now stopped cropping the rhubarb for the year. Got some of it in the freezer, and we've had some lovely crumbles, but we don't eat crumble in this heat. So I spent a bit of time pulling out all the old leaves and the soft stalks, and then gave it each plant a really good water, a couple of large watering cans per plant, and it's perked up a bit. Some of the leaves still look a bit ropey, but it can now recover. So that's a job I did this week. And at the end of the year, come autumn, what I would do is ordinarily lift this membrane, put in some good well-rotted allotment compost, and then put the membrane back down. And that just feeds the rhubarb for the year. If we move on down, the 4 cucumbers Passandra, they're indoor cucumbers as far as I know, and I've got a couple growing in the greenhouse at home, but I grew these, so I thought, well, I'll put them out and we'll see what happens, and they're doing okay. This heat has definitely helped. but they really are putting on a spurt now. And I tied them in yesterday, so the growth you see from the string to the tip there, which is about 5 or 6 inches, that's 24 hours growth. They're enjoying the heat, as I think is my fig. After my initial concerns that the fruit were dropping, and of course some of the fruit did drop, but what's left of the fruit is bulking up a bit. I think I might get some figs this year. Let's hope. Right, well, you just saw me emptying 2 more tubs of my salad potatoes. Now these are rocket, and that's 2 tubs worth, so it's not a fantastic crop, and there were a couple with slug damage, unlike last time. However, they're very clean. I'm very happy with that. Minimal damage, but behind the camera are 3 rows of Charlotte potato in the ground, planted I think the 18th of March. So I'm going to dig up one of those plants now and see and compare the crops from the tubs to the ground. So let's do that now. I hope you can see that all right. So on the left is the tub grown rocket. They were both sown on the same day and they were both harvested today. So it's a like for like comparison. That is 2 tubers, that is 2 tubers. Now to my eye they look about the same volume or quantity. The quality, well, it's very subjective, isn't it? There was a little bit of slug damage on these in the tubs. Oddly, no slug damage on the ones grown in the ground. That has to be due to the extremely dry weather. And of course, they're rocket, they're Charlotte, so the skins look quite different. However, you know, for a very subjective experiment, I would say there's not a great deal of difference. There is a couple of potatoes there that I've managed to damage slightly with the fork, but nothing that can't be cut off when we cook them. So, you know, I'm going to call that a draw. Pumpkins. Oh, well, that was boring hard work, but it's a bit tidier. But you can see down there the wooden edging to one of the beds is all crumbled and collapsed and rotted. A lot of maintenance to do, and you know, I've got to be honest, I would have put all new chippings and cardboard on the paths and tidied them up and done the edgings and so on and so forth, but because our ambition has been to move house, I've delayed all that. But as it looks less and less likely that the move's going to happen, in the autumn I will turn my attention to it and start to tidy up all the paths. I got the big project of the compost heaps to rebuild, get rid of all the old wood. Hopefully I'll be able to have a bonfire if the landowner agrees to it. So a lot of work I've been putting off that inevitably will have to be done this autumn. But that's a lot tidier anyway. Right. Another tidy up job is to move these tables across the path and then weed down here and summer prune that step over apple tree. Right, let's get to it. Right, that's the tables tidied up, and all that verbena that I'd potted up to take to the new place is now gone in there. Looks quite nice. Oh, it's blowing up a hoolie out there. I am glad to say that the temperatures have dropped. It's about 10 degrees cooler today than it was yesterday. I read something this week that was rather fascinating and a little bit disgusting. You may be aware, you may not, but the UN has a body that looks at all analysis and research into products, compounds, etc., and puts them on a scale of carcinogens, and carcinogens are something that cause cancer. You won't be surprised to hear that tobacco is a class 1 carcinogen. Class 1 being it does cause cancer. So tobacco, no surprises there. That's why children can't smoke. Asbestos is a class 1 carcinogen. You're not surprised to hear that. If you saw a child playing in a disused building on a pile of asbestos, you'd rush in, grab them and get them away from it as quick as possible. Of course you would. Plutonium. Plutonium is a class 1 carcinogen. All fairly simple stuff. But here's the rub. Processed meat is a class 1 carcinogen. You may already be aware of that. It's been long established. So bacon, sausages, hot dogs, cold cuts of meat, corned beef, spam, all those things that are processed, they are class 1 carcinogens. Now when you hear asbestos is a class 1, you don't bat an eyelid. Tobacco, don't bat an eyelid. But as soon as you say to somebody processed meat is a class 1 carcinogen, they question it, they doubt it, because of course nobody wants to hear bad news about their bad habits. And I've often wondered, and of course for years, most of my life I ate meat, and we haven't for the last 10 years. And of course, once my eyes were open, I look at that and I think, how is it legal to allow children to consume processed meat? If it's a class 1 carcinogen, you don't let them near asbestos or tobacco. How is it legal to feed children bacon sandwiches? Now, I come at it from the point of view of full declaration. We fed our children all those things because we didn't know. But the information's much more readily available today, and I don't understand how you can feed a child a class 1 carcinogen. And you know, I'm being controversial, I'm sure, but I saw something this week. They did a study of hot dogs. Now, I'm sure I've eaten a hot dog in my life. I don't remember it. It's not something I'd want to eat. I don't think we ever... I don't know. But I know they're very popular across the pond. And they analysed hundreds and hundreds of hot dogs, and they found that across all of these hot dogs, by volume, 2% of these hot dogs was made up of human DNA. So maybe hair, skin, fingernails, who knows? Yeah, and I thought cannibalism was outlawed. But yeah, I found that fascinating and not a little disgusting. Another thing they found when they were doing this research is that 10% of vegetarian sausages contain meat. And there was me thinking I was being holier than thou. Anyway, I thought it was all slightly interesting. You may or may not agree. She's a picking machine. I'd be surprised if you could actually tie them down to pick them. Well, a lovely harvest. And the picking machine's still going, so there'll be at least twice as many blackcurrants. But very happy with that. That's tea tonight sorted. She won't let me go home. I've got to stay while she picks blueberries now. You know, I've been here 12 hours now,
That's
dear.
your fault, not mine. You're stupid enough to do that, come up that early. That's your problem, not mine. Come up at a sensible time, you'll be alright.
Fight the battles you can win, eh?
What am I doing?
That's it.
Why is it an English one?
I asked you if you want the Welsh dragon, and you said no.
No, I do.
You do want the Welsh dragon.